Hello and welcome to Means of Production Productions, a gateway into the world of the Neolithic and Bronze Age. Today we are visiting a very special site in Nottingham along the banks of the River Trent, just down the road from the famous Trent Bridge. Clifton and Attenborough across the other side of the river have been sites of gravel excavation since the early 1900s. It was here in 1939 when workmen were dredging the riverbank for gravel when they were slowed down by wooden stakes driven into the riverbed and mounds of stones. Soon a skull and bronze spearheads were brought up. The foreman called out to some archaeologists who investigated and found something rather odd. The remains and artifacts seem to indicate the presence of a 3,000-year-old Bronze Age settlement, but it wasn't an ordinary settlement. It was what's known as a pile settlement, a settlement built directly onto the water sat on wooden poles. When I went down I didn't expect to see much, but I was surprised by just how many potential rock piles I could see. Once the pole had been driven into the riverbed, a pile of rocks and stones would have been placed around it to keep the pole secure. It seems a pretty reckless place to build a village, but remember, without modern river management, the whole area around the Trent would have been a lot more boggy and swampy. Building on the water meant there was more agricultural land available. The village would have been protected from attack. It opened up another food source of fish and water birds. We know that a lot of religious ceremony happened around rivers due to the amount of offerings we find in certain bodies of water. Just down the river, two dug-out canoes, each made of a single oak over 27 foot long, were found, possibly purposefully sunk, similar to the one held in Derby Museum, which was weighed down with stones when it was offered up to its river. Just up the road in Beeston on the other side of the river is a natural floodplain, meaning that it would flood the other side but not so much the side of the community, making it an incredibly smart place to build on the water. At its height the community stretched almost 3/4 across the river, which is crazy. From here they would have controlled the whole river. The best example of a pile that I found is just here. I'm not an archaeologist, but it does look pretty compelling. I was unable to get to it at first. The ground around it was just too boggy. I ended up going through an overgrown area with lots of nettles. I found a bank one side which would have led just next to where the stone mound was, possibly straight to the front door. It was covered in small shells. I think birds would have been using it as a nesting site. There were other rocks close by that would have been used for other support. Let me know what you think. Modern leftovers of gravel quarrying or Iron Age pile stilt support? Although in retrospect, I now kind of think it might be an old campfire. In the 1950s, Neolithic artefacts started to come out of Attenborough, across the other side of the river. Here you see a pottery bowl piece, a stone mace head and an antler mace head, and a lovely axe head, all from the Neolithic, and a pygmy cup from the early Bronze Age, all given into the Nottingham University Museum by Mr. H. Martin from Beeston before the gravel pits were flooded to make the current nature reserve. In the 1960s, while looking for gravel, a number of large coffin-shaped stones sat upright in the ground were exposed. These were interpreted as the remains of a stone circle. I don't know where they are now. Please let me know if you did. The village would have been, of course, only a short walk away from the stone on Crow Hill, Nottingham's only standing stone. Click the link above to see a video I made about this. I was surprised by the amount of blackberries along the banks. They grow up in big stacks. I wondered if they had been descended from the crops planted here by our Iron Age river dwellers. As I was walking, I came across a stone with lots of holes in it. I thought it was possible that these could have been basic Neolithic art, but it was more likely to be from weathering. However, right next to it was this rock, with two X's carved into it and a big chip taken out of it. Again, I think it's likely to be modern, but you never know. As I went further on, I found some strange earth banks, although they could have been made from the river, which will have changed its position over the centuries. Work is being undertaken into the Clifton site now. Hopefully more information will be uncovered. I have left a few links to articles I found useful making this video in the description. I'd be incredibly grateful if you could like and subscribe. If you would like to buy me a pint to say thank you for making this video, I have left a cheeky little link. Check out my other videos and thank you again for watching. Cheers.